And that means we are now live here on our YouTube channel. It's our daily show we call the Halftime Report, where we go through the markets one step at a time, top-down analysis style, looking at indexes, commodities, currencies, individual company, charts that are grabbing our attention, breaking down economic data, anything we think is important and relevant for the financial markets that day so that you guys can better run your daily routine. And welcome back, everybody, to our community. Hashtag Team Tackle right in the chat as you're coming into the show. Let's keep that thing lively and fun, as it always is. Appreciate you guys out there. That's why we do this kind of stuff. And then if you are new to the channel, make sure that you do click subscribe, click the bell, so that you can come back and join us on a daily basis whenever we go live. Marky, welcome. Emily, welcome. We'll talk podcast just a second. Pleasantries first. Emily, you're up first. How you doing today, young lady?
I am doing wonderful. How are you all doing? It's a beautiful sunny day in Washington, D.C. I just want to be outside. I wish we could move like the show outside and just like do this somewhere in, under the shade somewhere and just enjoy the beautiful weather. It's really gorgeous out here.
We had gray, rainy weather for a couple of days. The sun that looks to be popping out here in Utah as well. Marky, how are you doing today on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm not too shabby. Not too shabby. Like, curious that I mean, it's a big week, right? And it's just getting started. So I mean, this is one of those like popcorn weeks, but that you just can't sit back and do your popcorn, because there could be a lot of market actions that impacts your decisions, impacts your positions. Market's on the edge of a breakout, doesn't quite want it yet. We'll go over the technicals in a second, but doing all right.
Yeah, these aren't market conditions you take a day off. I'm going to tell you that right now. Not with the current condition of where we are. We are hesitating here today, obviously, but we got a very, very busy news week in front of us, including Tesla reporting earnings last night. We've got a bunch of names after the bell today and before the bell tomorrow that are going to be market movers. We'll take a little bit of a look at that when we preview earnings. But Fed meeting today, tomorrow as well, Mark. I mean, it's not a market condition that you're going to take a day off here, I don't think.
It no shortage of interesting things happening this week.
Absolutely. And one interesting thing that happened yesterday is we had a very, very fun podcast. And Emily, you've got the website up here. We do it each and every Monday. The Trading Justice Podcast, episode number 422. All I can say about this is if you're interested in Vega or implied volatility, Matt and I sat down and we had a conversation about how the volatility cycle works, where option premiums get built up into their earnings report and then they fall precipitously after their earnings report. We also call that the volatility crush. Emily, you and I have had conversations about Vega and implied volatility and stuff. You get a chance to listen to the podcast yet?
No, I have not yet had to listen to it. I had a chance to listen to it, but I'll definitely will plug it in and check it out. But yeah, I love volatility talk. I used to do a lot of volatility trades. You actually taught me how to do the volatility trades during earnings. So I am looking forward to listening to that.
It's fun. I think if you are out there and you're a member of our community and you love our podcast, I think you're going to love this one as well. And we even talked a little bit NFL draft at the end of the show there, Emily, with the draft coming up on Thursday. You know how big of football nerds we are. I know how big of a football nerd you are as well. You're a big Washington Redskins fan. So any
Washington
football team, correct me, absolutely. But anything you're looking for out of the draft this weekend? You want to get a quarterback? What are you looking for?
Yeah, we need a quarterback bad. So yeah, definitely hoping we can pick one up in the first round or second round or something like that. But yeah, we need a whole offense. So definitely hoping that they're able to do something over there and get us some good stuff.
I don't know if they can draft all 52 starters this weekend, Emily, but hopefully they can play.
Washington has a good.
We have some good wide receivers, but we need a quarterback. We need some running backs. Our defense is solid, but we need an offense.
It's going to be fun. Everybody sees the best in the opportunity until the picks come in, and then you start realizing, okay, maybe that is or isn't going to work. Some people will be excited, some people won't. We'll talk about it later in the week when Matt's back, I'm sure. Let's get down to markets here today, guys. Back on the equity markets. Let's start with the S&P 500. We'll do an earnings roundup later here, Mark, but obviously we have a hesitation day in front of a lot of big events throughout the rest of the week. Earnings, Fed meeting, like we talked about. What you read on the charts and price action right now?
Listen, not surprised. Resistance, even, when you have clear resistance zones that start to form, just like clear support zones, it's not surprising if market action, especially after a big run, right? We had a big 3-week stretch in the market. Blue chips just tore it up. And you have clear resistance and support areas. And so it's not surprising that you hesitate, especially, I mean, the market will hesitate for 2 days before a Fed meeting normally. It's not surprising in the slightest that you're getting hesitation ahead of the Fed meeting tomorrow, and then the slew of major, big, huge, massive companies reporting earnings this week.
Mm-hmm.
So hesitation at resistance ahead of a big event, not a shock at all.
Emily, I want you to put your best Coach Tyler hat on right now, and I want you to run those charts the way he does it always. I know you got this. But S&P, Dow, NASDAQ, and the Russell 2000, tell me what you are seeing in the charts from a relative strength and weakness perspective.
Pretty much same as Mark and pretty much everybody that we're looking at. We have most of the indexes, I think, except for the Russell, at resistance levels. So we're just hesitating, and sometimes we need that. Like Mark said, we've had this huge run up, and now here we are just kind of consolidating and chopping and just waiting for the Fed news and earnings. But I like that it's on, we're on the high base and not being choppy. It's kind of small candle, and just kind of waiting for the news and the events that are happening this week to kind of get past us. I think unemployment is next week. We don't have that this week, but we have earnings and we have the Fed speaking. With the NASDAQ, same thing. We had again this huge run up breakout. Now we're hesitating at the top range right here. That 14,000 range is what we're looking at. But again, I think we're just going to wait for the news and just kind of see what's going to happen there with the Fed. The Russell is just going to be the one that's been sideways. It really hasn't gotten back to where that old high was. We're still kind of in this sideways choppiness, which is good for those that are doing the iron condors. Now it's actually doing what we needed to do and not have this huge run up like it did over the last several months back in November and into January. So it's kind of like what I'm seeing here. It's just a lot of sideways choppiness, and it's a good environment for cash flow trading, but obviously you have to be, watchful of those earnings that are coming out. So if you're doing volatility trades, like you guys talked about yesterday in the podcast, good environment for that if you're using earnings to play volatility. But for the most part, it's just, sideways choppiness and just kind of waiting on all three indexes except for the Russell.
Yeah, give me the ES back on that one for just a minute here. And, Mark, you were talking about how important it is for support to form over the last several, sessions and whatnot. If you take a peek at the intraday chart here, Emily, obviously we got a doji right at resistance, threatening a breakout and all that kind of stuff. Breaking it down into that 30-minute chart, Mark, we do have a higher level of intraday support over the last couple of days, starting with the Sunday session at 41.65. As you're thinking about the week unfolding in front of us, what are you going to be watching for in price action on a day-by-day basis, Marky? Well,
I'm a big believer in adding bullish exposure when you have a broad market breakout. So, you have, you have a trading plan, right? And you have your portfolio. And some individuals are like, I'm all in all the time, right? I have 100%. In fact, so many people these days are like, using leverage and margin. So they're already all in. Well, a responsible trader, always has cash available to use that cash for different trades depending on the technical situation. For example, when Tyler and I, when we've had big market dips and we've been on the halftime report at the same time, having cash available to buy those dips. But you also want cash available to add exposure when you get technical breakouts as well. So I'm a big believer when the broad market that you execute more trades, you add more risk, you have those setups that you're interested in. Some of them might be short term, some of them might be intermediate, some of them might be longer term. So when I get a technical breakout on the broad market, it's add exposure time. I also like playing off a little intraday support bounces like that. So technical analysis is really guiding all of my decisions this week, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. And waiting for those market responses to see if we do catch that breakout, we'll give you that, signal as
that's the thing about waiting for a breakout from a top-down perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to pay a lot more. And so getting that technical confirmation, man, over the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, it will save you a lot of grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will save you a lot of grief just being a little bit patient.
Pretty tight range start the week, though. I mean, if we're looking at that 41.65 zone that you've got that line on there, and between 41.90, we're within, just about a 25-point price range on the index, so just 0.6% or so, as it's been rattling back and forth, waiting on further news for those confirmation points like you talk about. And then one last quick peek at the intraday on the NASDAQ, Emily. Obviously, Tesla reported earnings last night. We'll go through the numbers here a little bit later in the show and talk a little bit about it. That's the Dow. Give me the NQ if you
I'm sorry.
can. Yeah, no problem. And higher pivot lows here, Mark, throughout the week. One good thing, you saw a little bit of a sell-off there. Tesla was also down a little hair on their earnings report. Stuck a little bit of a pivot point, started trending higher. Intraday analysis of markets are stabilizing here mid-morning, isn't it?
Yeah, no, listen, summing it all up, intraday, broad market, it's all bullish right now. I really do think later this summer we could have some events. That's for another day. I want to make money today. The markets are very bullish right now. The technical setup's very bullish. You just need sentiment to come on board, and you need that technical catalyst, and you could take another leg up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep flashing through the markets. I also want to look at home builders here in just a minute. In fact, why don't we do that right now? I saw some economic data come through this morning. One notable report, by the way, which was expected. We did expect to see a real strong price increase in home builders, but XHB would be a good way to look at this one, Emily, the home builder ETF. A little bit of a breakout here today, Mark, after the home builder index, the price index showed a 12% increase year over year just in the month of February alone. That's pre-pandemic to this year. We've seen home prices going crazy as lumber prices have added about $25,000 to the average price of a home in America, Emily, as their prices have soared this year. Home builders
Hashtag no inflation.
Yeah, no inflation, right? I mean, absolutely not. Marky, I'm still interested in this area. That looks like a pretty good technical breakout to me. What about you with home builders? Do you still have interest in these kind of companies?
I mean, it's ran a lot, right? I mean, and so I'm probably the wrong person to ask after a massive, huge run. I'm the kind of guy who likes a Johnson & Johnson or a Lowe's chart where after a big run, it takes 6 months off, and then I like playing the breakout. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask, but the momentum is still there in the short term.
Well, I'll ask my dear Emily then. Emily, what about you? I know you like momentum breakouts in areas that saw 12% growth year over year, correct?
Yeah, I do. And thank you for bringing it up, because this is not something that I actually had on my radar. I've really been, with on energy and financials and those areas. I really have not looked at home builders. So thank you for adding it to my watch list. I will definitely keep an eye on this, but I absolutely love this. Yeah, and it's spring. People out here, people are building, people are buying homes. Interest rates are low. I mean, it makes sense.
It's got good theme behind it, good technical trend, good chart as well, for sure. Let's keep flashing through markets. The major news today is going to be those earnings roundup. I've got a couple analyst upgrade downgrades as well I want to get to when we get into stock talk. And Emily, are you ready for another edition of the Queen's Court? Do you have your...
Always ready. I am in a mood of killing people today, so somebody's going to die.
The Queen is thirsty for blood.
I would just like to say that I was unfairly executed last week.
I am with you, Mark. I am with you, Mark. That was not deserved, and it was not up to me. I'm totally with you. Tim should have died. Mom should have picked Tim.
I don't think we should carry our thoughts.
I just wanted to, as Tim says, I just wanted to put that out there in the ethos.
Let's wait to chop my head until you see what I brought for the Queen. All right, at least give me a fair chance at life. Is that all right?
Fair enough.
All right. That's all I'm asking for. All I'm asking for. All right, let's keep working through the markets. Crude oil next. Mark, you made a compelling case as to why you're still very interested in energy stocks. And during yesterday's show, crude oil kind of just holding right here. There's some OPEC chatter. They're meeting today about production potentially. I haven't seen any news announcement from that. Anything you want to add to oil analysis?
I mean that's the thing. There's two equations to oil supply and demand. Demand's been muted because of COVID headlines. Saudi princes have your back. I believe that. I believe that thoroughly. Explained that a lot yesterday. But in the short term, you just look at it's just going to be at range. I mean, commodities can trade sideways for a long time. It doesn't create a lot of excitement in the short term, but from a cash flow perspective, not everything has to be a huge freaking momentum area. Making that slow, grindy money that adds up over time, and it really does add up. So, yeah. If you want to know my case on energy stocks, check out yesterday's halftime report. Talked about it for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, we actually pulled that clip and cut it separately, so you can even find it right on the YouTube channel. Go directly to it on Mark's commodity corner showcase that we did yesterday. And let's keep moving through the commodity market as we're analyzing the markets here today. And by the way, if you're out there watching the show right now, appreciate you guys. Make sure you give me a thumbs up, help me get the analytics out there. Let's get the word out on Tackle Trading's halftime report. Chat is looking great here today. Keep it up. And if you're brand new to the show, don't be shy about chatting. These are all of our community members. I'm sure you could pop a question in there. We'll take a peek at it. Let's talk gold next. Healthy little development here, Mark. Little trend to the upside. First, you though, Emily, what are you seeing in this chart, and how are you approaching gold over the last couple of months?
Gold really is obviously for me a long-term investment. So I'm really, just other than just cash flowing, that's really pretty much all I do with gold. But I'm seeing, it's starting to have this little uptrend here. We do have some resistance. We've got to clear up here at 1800. But if you don't have any exposure to gold, or if you're looking to add on positions, I would probably be looking to add exposure to that. You do have some resistance here also at 1850 with that moving average. But I like this, that we found this support level here. And Matt talked about this, plenty of times here. But identifying this support level here, now here we are starting to, generate those higher highs, higher lows. I'm liking the trend. I'd want to see it clear 1800 and hopefully have a nice run on gold, but nice and steady, not that crazy run, but nice and steady uptrend with gold.
Yeah, we put on a weekly chart here, and I pointed this out in the commodity report at Tackle Trading for Pro members. You have genuine hesitation at a major moving average, what I call the most underrated indicator in technical analysis. Very normal. I did an extensive study on moving averages. It's very normal to have a test and have that hold at the start. So just, when you're reversing, it's usually not just a straight line up. It's not this V shape up. It usually takes some time. All of this is very normal bullish price action right now on gold.
Yeah. It takes some time to work through those, levels and whatnot. But back on that daily chart, like you're talking about, Mark, that time we've been seeing it over time as it posted, equal pivot lows, then the higher pivot low, then it held the consolidation and broke out into this new little developing daily trend. Now it's not out of the woods yet. It's not completely clearly in an uptrend, but we love the prospects. We see what's been happening. We're excited about it. Is that kind of where everybody's head's at?
Yep, and and once again, from a cash flow perspective, I love it. I haven't felt this safe with gold in a while from a cash flow perspective.
Next, let's take a peek at the US dollar if we can. Actually, no. Let's stay on metals for a second. I just want to highlight something real quick. I was seeing in the metals market this morning. Look at the PA contract /PA. Okay. Broke out to an all-time high here today, Mark, obviously showing me a lot of strength. A lot of them were, saying even with the automaker results at a test and whatnot, they like what's happening in palladium. Palladium prices have continued to skyrocket. But take a peek at the other ones as well here, industrial metals, platinum /PL. Beautiful developing pattern with potential breakout capabilities. But the juggernaut, copper /HG. Okay, Mark, that's a pretty chart. Breakout on Monday, carry through here today. Obviously, we are extended and stretched up, but hashtag no inflation, right? Around all these commodity prices and metals prices.
And it's one of those things. And once again, if you don't toot your own horn, who does at Tackle Trading and in the commodities report, we have been extremely bullish on industrial metals for a while now. It's been an easy read, in my opinion. You're seeing confirmation price action. And it's what I love about commodities is that you have these fundamental theses. And, in short-term price action can go a lot of ways. It can trade sideways, it can be wonky. But the thesis behind the industrial metals is solid. And, and if you go to silver, it hasn't joined the party yet, but I've been talking up the industrial precious metals lagging behind, getting caught up in these wonky trade patterns with yields. And once again, if the economy is going to be overheated, if there's going to be all this robust short-term growth over the next 9 months, 18 months, it just is an easy call, for the industrial metals. So, companies like FCX with copper, your platinum and palladium ETFs, it's all good. I mean, commodities is an amazing area, and the price action starting to support. But don't be surprised if silver eventually helps join and come into the party.
Yeah, and across all of those different metals, mining companies that have the ability to extract some of these precious metals, Emily, are doing really well. The GDX is looking great. I like XME as well. We might talk about that a little bit later in the show. Let's keep flashing through the markets here if we can. Let's move on to currencies next. US dollar, UUP ETF. Downward drift down here at the very, very bottom. There's a couple things happened today in terms of currency analysis. The Bank of Japan held their rate steady and said they're still committed to further, monetary easing and support for the economy and all that kind of stuff, like you would expect. And so did the Riksbank out of Sweden. They had the same announcement. So more central banks around the world doing the same thing that the U.S. is doing here, guys. And the dollar has been under pressure now for about a month. That entire technical trend is now to the downside, obviously, and it's even pretty aggressively to the downside. Mark, what's your read on the chart alone?
I mean, there's room to go down still. I mean, whenever you have short-term support levels start to form in a downtrend, this is normal technical analysis. And a lot of new traders that just focus on stocks, if you're a new trader in the last year, you don't have a lot of experience of this, because short-term support would form and then things would just go up, right? Everything went up, nothing went down. Well, this is normal price behavior. Short-term support forms, it then breaks, takes another leg down. Got a classic downtrend right now. Classic short-term downtrend on the dollar, and there's room to go to the next level still.
Yeah, absolutely under pressure. And Emily, do you want to put all of your assets in US dollars? Does that sound like Matt asked me, do you want to buy the dollar? It's like things are rag. It's looking pretty ugly as well. Bitcoin.
Yeah, but Janet Yellen, tell me more about how Bitcoin is, a risky investment in the blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I won't echo Janet Yellen's comments, but there's risk in this chart right here. I'll tell you that. Rolling moving averages after a pivot breakdown into volatility. Now we're stuck in the middle of the range. You got to like the 2-day response here, Mark, but this entire pattern's now blown up. The trend is blown up. What do you do with this?
And this is the thing with new traders. I mean, once again, you see that and you immediately see the risk. And a new trader might say, this monster price, Bitcoin's killing it this week, right? Bitcoin to the moon again. This is a dangerous situation for Bitcoin, and it's a key point. When you get falling moving averages after a big move down, what do we call this? What do we call this? There's a lot of technical things.
Reversal characteristics are starting to develop. It's pivot point analysis. In fact, Emily, if you can grab like a little circle tool or a little box tool, however we could highlight that, and just kind of, highlight the pivot points, starting back, probably in February.
We can start here, right? So we had this breakout here, and then we had that pivot right there where we had that high, we had that, and oops, let's get that. And you can start to see the slowing momentum and everything, right? So Bitcoin had this huge run up here. My mouse is not cooperating with me. You had this huge run up here, and then you can start to see the slowing momentum happening, right? And then we start to get this little sideways choppy where we're not creating new highs, but then we had this one breakout here. We got to 65.50, 65.520, and then boom, we failed to make that new higher high. And now we're down, and we're down below the support level here. We broke that support level here, broke that support level here. So now here's where we're finding our support level here, close to this range right here. And now we just gotta, it's like you said, it's just in the middle of nowhere's land. It's gotta clear this moving averages to continue back to the uptrend, or it's just gonna be ugly for a while.
Yeah.
No, every once in a while, something just, violates technical behavior, and just could Bitcoin just take off and go, short, right? Anything can happen, especially if you get a good catalyst behind it. But man, it is not an entry day from a technical perspective. I do know that.
No, it's not. I mean, any short-term trading analysis is completely blown up, and it could easily move into a consolidation. I love what Matt said yesterday. If Bitcoin's at 35, or if it's 65, or if it's at 45 or 55, just tell me where it is, because it has any potential outcome in the short term right now, as the volatility is just rattling back and forth and the pattern's kind of been blown up. So I will tell you this, Elon Musk and Tesla, they cashed in some of their Bitcoin holdings. We learned that from their earnings report yesterday, netting about $100 million in profit from their purchase back in January there, Mark. They said, hey, we need a little bit more of that. cash and cheddar, put it into cash so we can show our corporate profits are profitable this Q1. That was an interesting note from Tesla. And we might as well move into stock talk at this point and just discuss Tesla's earnings report. This was an interesting one for me. It was the first in many this week in the tech sector. Big names: Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple. All of those types are set to report here throughout the week. Tesla kicked it off out of the big names first. And Mark, they did actually post beats in EPS. 0.93 EPS, which was their highest ever that they have posted as a company. Revenue of 10.4 billion, which was above the estimate of 10.2 billion that was pulled by analysts. Their EPS number came in 15 cents above expectations. So they had a beat and a beat. Okay. Revenue grew 73% on a year-over-year basis. They had strong deliveries in certain segments of their car units, like the Model Ys and Model 3s, I believe. They stopped production on their higher-end Model S's, but they even announced stuff for the future, Mark, where they're going to open gigafactories in Germany and Texas this year, and where they're going to start building a pickup truck and a semi-truck. So why is the stock muted here today, Mark? What is it about this report that the market didn't care much about in terms of the stock? The stock hesitating down. What are we down? 3%? It's not a big move on Tesla. It's not earth-shattering, and it did even hold its support zone. So kind of a mixed meh type of reaction here, Mark.
Very mixed meh. Listen, I am not Tesla's a fine company. The valuation is through the roof. You're heading back to normal market conditions where things like valuation might not send a stock down, right? But you got to when you're at valuation levels this high, I mean, you got to blow the doors off, and making money through credits and making money through Bitcoin and modest sales growth. I mean, there was nothing earth shattering. There was nothing that made the market go, oh my gosh,
That's
it
right.
was, there was nothing that scared individuals either, right? You mentioned some of the positive things there. It's just the reality that when you're at this high of valuation, you need a whole lot of oomph to take that next leg up. There wasn't a whole lot of oomph there. It was fine. It was solid. It was about as expected, but you're getting price action that, well, it's about as expected. I mean, if Tesla was up a couple percent today, it wouldn't have surprised me. If it was down a couple percent, it wouldn't have surprised me. It's kind of a nothing burger on an earnings report, which is good, because that means you can let technical analysis take over now.
Well, and the technicals are still in play here, quite frankly. I mean, the pivot analysis that you did a minute ago on, the other chart we were looking at, Emily, same kind of thing here. We can learn from Bitcoin, I should say. We can learn from pivot point analysis. And, during the months of February and March, obviously these innovation type companies fell out of favor from the market, and it took that obvious sell-off. It went from $900 all the way down here into the 550s, 540 range. Found a pivot point. You never know where that first one's going to find itself. Then it found another higher pivot point, then another little higher pivot point right there, finally breaking above moving averages. And now we're post earnings, holding the moving averages and holding support on Tesla. As a technician, I think you got to be excited. I understand valuation concerns and all that kind of stuff. Pure technicals, though, Emily, are you seeing something here that you're interested in?
I'd give it a little bit more time. I want to see it, hold this support level here at 700. So I'd want to give it a couple of days where maybe it's just kind of low basis here and then continue in that trend. But yeah, not at the moment quite yet, but I definitely have interest in it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Who's not happy with today's report? Because if you're an investor in Tesla, there was nothing in this report that said, oh my gosh, I just hate my investment. Who's not happy? People who bought call options expecting a huge jump heading into
Yeah, the volatility suck would have been real here. There's no doubt about it.
And if you want to know more about that volatility suck, check out the podcast from yesterday. I mean, this is the thing about trading. There's so many ways to make trading. But I mean, I know traders who I'm going to buy call options because Tesla's awesome, right? Well, even if Tesla's awesome, let's accept your premise that Tesla is awesome. Market reactions can be very, very funny, and buying call options, expecting a big move, that's nothing wrong with good gamble, but that's what you're doing.
You know, and part of the reason why you had the tepid response here, by the way, guys, because if you look at the raw data, Mark, if you just look at the headline, Tesla beat EPS and they beat revenue, right? They had one of their surge in record profits and revenues and all that kind of stuff. You could easily write that headline. But the way they got there just didn't inspire the market here today, Emily, because they still had to cash in 518 million in emission credits and 100 million in Bitcoin sales instead of just selling their units, right?
Instead of just being the car company they are.
And sell cars.
But it wasn't all bad, and that's why you got the mixed response.
Yeah, I mean,
of
once
about a
again,
few
it was
percent.
kind of a nothing burger, right?
Meh.
It's not gonna.
It's meh.
It is not. It is the kind of thing that is not going to change a darn person, bull or bear's opinion on Bitcoin.
On Tesla. Yeah.
I almost called it Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, you did.
Like,
Careful. That might have been a slip of the tongue, and that might be Freudian there. You might think of all of it as the same as the way you do. All right, UPS next here, Mark. Now you go from a company that you're kind of met on to a company that absolutely just destroyed it here in the quarter.
this will be my Queen's Court pick, so I'm going to save the big analysis on UPS for a minute, but give the highlights.
You save your thoughts then, and I will give the data. You know, the stock obviously is gapping out. I think you got to get a little bit bigger picture on the trend here to really see why this is significant. It had a 7-month consolidation. You know, it really hadn't done much. It was only up 4% year to date, which is still a good gain, right? But you see that on the weekly chart, that high base for time, you know, over time, it knew where those levels were. The report today allowed the stock to gap out on very, very strong results. Earnings came in at $2.77 earnings per share. That consensus estimate, Emily, was only 167. Now, is 277 a lot higher than 167? It sure is. They blew out the EPS number. They even beat their revenue number at 22.9 billion, couple billion higher than what people thought. Guys, this is a stock that obviously benefited from the pandemic last year. We saw the takeoff and the run. And I think a lot of people were wondering, or just letting time pass to let the price catch up, whatever was happening there, you know, are they going to continue to post these strong numbers as the economy gets back up and running and all that kind of stuff? E-commerce ain't going away. And they had a lot of great things to say about where they're at, what they've done. They had a beat real bigly. I like that word, bigly there, and you know, positive commentary moving forward. The only drawback is they didn't provide guidance saying, hey, we don't know what the pandemic rollouts are going to be and this stuff. So company's been doing that. So I get that part of it. Emily, you know, what's your read here on UPS?
I definitely love it that it broke out of this range that you said. It's been in quite a bit of time.
I should have said, if Emily said I didn't like it, I was going to be like, I'm going to have a new Queen's Court pick. I need to go do some.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. I need to take a minute.
No, I absolutely love it. I mean, there's, you know, and I mean, when you think about, you know, the sector that UPS is in, and like you said, it's, you know, it really, really, really did do well last year with just the pandemic and people just having to buy things online and, you know, have things shipped all over the place. I like it. I like UPS, and I'm curious to see what Mark's analysis will be on it for the Queen's Court.
Looking forward to it as well. We'll hold on to that for a moment. Save it for the court. But let's go on to BP next. And Mark, I didn't think I would be you know, looking at BP as one of the first 3 earnings reports from today. Stock price did nothing. Chart did nothing. Not interested in that too much. What I was interested in, Mark, is that they actually showed improving financials, and the energy sector is something that we are laser focused on here. You know, especially you are with your analysis yesterday and what you're watching for later in the week.
I mean, that's the thing, is that when you have a thesis, I mean, I'm a huge, like, I'll trade. When I trade according to technical analysis in the short term. When I invest, I do a whole lot more. I mean, you know, if a stock's in a short-term uptrend, I do not give 2 rats about the short-term uptrend if I'm making an investment that might last for years and years and years, right? You know, and so you got to develop a good thesis. And these oil energy companies, I mean, it is seeing the improving financials. It is seeing the stability. It is seeing the cash flow. I mean, there's so many things. And so BP's came out not too shabby. I'm looking forward to ExxonMobil and Chevron here in a couple of days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward as well. You know, with BP, some of the raw numbers here, Emily, just to give them to you, 0.77 earnings per share, revenue of 36.5 billion. This is a huge oil conglomerate, obviously. They make a lot of money. It's one of the bigger ones in the world in terms of revenue. That beat their consensus estimate at 43 cents and the revenue at 31 billion. So you had a beat and a beat on depressed expectations on the revenue. They did have your revenue drop 38% year over year because they are still doing much less business than they did last year, Mark, at this point. Still don't have the demand side all the way figured out. But here's what I loved about it, because the numbers are the numbers. They put 500 million back into their buyback in Q2. Okay. They had suspended that. And they committed 1 to 2 billion over the next year to continue to buy back more stock, Mark. That even just
listen, a company that is, I mean, you know, listen, the buyback thing is massive. It is. The buyback thing just improves everything about it. I mean, I don't think it can be understated. I'm sorry. I believe in my cash flow and my oil companies right now. I don't care what the short-term price does.
Yeah. Good work, BP, at least, you know, giving the investors what they're looking for from that buyback program. Let's keep moving through here. A couple other ones I'm interested in. Not all going to be earnings roundups, but different news stories as well. GameStop finished their $500 million transactions to generate some more revenue. The company is continuing to hold up here. It's been an interesting ride there for a while. Marky, very resilient. Are you surprised at all by the resiliency in GameStop as it's been kind of just neutral?
It's fascinating. It really is. You know, and without doing a deep dive, Diamond has this concept, which I like to make fun of and use. If people don't sell, I mean, there's only one way for price to go. And there's been a lot of volatility, and there's been a lot of meme stocks that have not done very well. There's been a lot of message board stocks. There's been a lot of Catholic Wood stocks that have had rough stretches. The GameStop thing is a phenomenon that transcends almost anything we've ever seen. The commitment level of the participants, you know, a lot of people thought they would get shook out at some point. Maybe they will at some point, right? Maybe that's just around the corner. But it is a fascinating story. Now, you know, every once in a while, someone that could put a $15, $20, $25 on GameStop, make a little credit there, give her a shot. But man, it's been a resilient thing. It's a fascinating storyline.
It's been hugely resilient, very, very interesting storyline. I agree with that.
I mean, I'm not going to be, you know, it's still, I mean, let's not even.
Not for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at a value investment, this is not it. But doesn't make it any less interesting.
Moving on to another interesting company. Look at Crocs. Old Christian, if you're out there watching the show.
Oh, man.
Crocs, let me make it very simple. Record first quarter sales, raised revenue guidance, projecting sales growth of 40 to 50% this year. People buying Crocs. Okay. I am fascinated by this stock story over the last 15 years, not just this year. It's been an exploding company, Mark, to the upside. It had a long consolidation. Now it's a runaway breakaway with pretty much a no sell day at this point, up 17%. Now, you are not a chase the dragon kind of trader. I know that. That's not going to be your analysis about whether it's a buy or not. But aren't you just impressed with a brand who can succeed even when it has all the haters out there, Emily?
You know, this is the nice thing about investing is that you don't have to be a master of everything, and you can be wrong. And just because you miss out on things, I have no idea who buys those ugly shoes. I don't get it. I'll never be an investor in Crocs because I don't get it. And if I don't get it, that's fine, right? I don't have to get everything. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I'm the smartest person in the world. But I know not to short it because someone buying them.
Shots fired. You said that wrong. You should have said, I don't know who's buying those wonderful shoes that are very comfortable that I can wear to the beach and also around the house.
And to the mall.
Like, don't hate on Crocs, bro. There's a lot of people buying Crocs. You might be.
And once again, like, I don't have to get it. You know, because I can't invest in everything anyways, right? Mm-hmm. I don't get it, but I know not to short, and I know not to get in the way of the Crocs army.
It is an amazing little product here. Emily, you own any Crocs?
No, I do not. My son did for many, many years. He loved to wear them when he was a toddler, but he's we're not a Crocs family, but I don't mind being a Crocs investor at this point. This is great.
It's been a juggernaut, and they posted record numbers. You have to give it to them. Ford Motor, next story I want to talk about. Mark, what's been the storyline around these automakers for the better part of a year and a half? Well, they're
transition, right? Transition to EVs. It is the okay. We're not going to ignore this anymore. I guess this EV thing is not going away. And it's this transition. It's not, and it's been a commitment. I mean, when you hear conference calls, when you hear company officials, GM, Ford, European auto manufacturers, they're not messing around. I mean, this is a real thing. This is something that, like, a true, genuine commitment. To get in, not only get in this space, but to dominate this space. I mean, this is an all-in movement by these companies.
Hold on. Ellen is telling me Crocs has flip-flops. I need to look this up, Emily. I'm with you on the analysis. Now I'm distracted because I now want a pair of Crocs flip-flops. I absolutely would rock Crocs flip-flops. They're very comfortable, and that could be my jam. You're right, though, Mark. The transition towards EV and all those kind of things has been the storyline around Ford, GM, and so many of these automakers over the last 18 months, and it will continue to be moving forward. And Ford did another thing here today where they announced plans to invest $185 million into a new battery lab, because if you're going to make an electric vehicle, you got to have a battery in there. Emily, 200,000 square foot production pilot facility that's going to go outside in the metro in Detroit, full battery cell production. And they look like GM is going to be following suit with announcements around the same kind of thing around fuel cell technology over the last couple of months. Mark, these are the moves they're going to be moving into. And tomorrow we do get Ford earnings numbers, Emily. So there's no trade here, but I just find it fascinating. I absolutely would buy a Ford electric vehicle. I own a Toyota hybrid electric right now. So these companies are going to continue to move into these markets. One of the drawbacks you have around the Tesla analysis, isn't it?
No, and I've said this for years, like 3 years ago, like a long time. And obviously I've been wrong on Tesla as far, but once again, I don't short it. So I'm happy being wrong. I've never bought the auto manufacturers weren't going to get involved, and they certainly are. There's no doubt about that. That's now just widely accepted. Now we're going to see who wins. And there's going to be people that put out great vehicles, right, that are very, very successful. There's going to be people that put out great technology, and there's going to be a big, there's a lot of cars that are sold. So we'll see who the winners are now.
From automakers to just auto ride share companies, and GM also looking very similar. Emily's there, looking really, really similar, correlated. Move on to Lyft here next, if we can. Another story grabbed my attention today, Mark. They're selling their self-driving technology unit at Lyft to Toyota Motor for $550 million. Moving on from a project they've sunk a lot of money into in the past. They wanted to allow it to become profitable. It just didn't get there soon enough, and they have a commitment to turn profitability this year. I like storylines like this. It tells me that the company is starting to make some tough decisions. You can't hold on to every one of your pet projects and babies, and really focused on trying to actually hit net profit. Now, we'll see if they can do that throughout the year. I know Lyft is reporting.
And that's been the big thing about Uber and Lyft, right? I mean, people speculating, can these companies ever make money? And so I agree with your analysis. It is it makes me more interested in Lyft. I'm still not interested, but it makes me more interested, at least. Catches my attention.
Yeah, it caught my attention as well. And that's it for the news for me today. There were a couple upgrade downgrades, nothing that really grabbed my attention too far. Let's play the Queen's Court. Let's do it. This is a segment. I don't know how many editions of this thing have we done? Maybe 5 or 6, somewhere around there. I think about a month.
I think so. I'm gonna start keeping track, because you guys have really found me some good picks that I need to, that I've been profitable.
Well, that's what we try to do at Tackle Trading, right? Give you good ideas, give you good analysis, and then you can take it and do what you want with it.
It's been a fun, very, very fun new addition to the show. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, Emily, even if I do get my head chopped off every now and then. I am asking the Queen for just an open mind here today as we start Queen's Court. What we do here today on Tuesdays, guys, if you're out there watching for the first time, is the coaches who are here, besides Emily, are going to bring a stock or two, usually one, bit of analysis to Emily. She's our queen at tackle trading. And then we say, okay, please don't kill us. Do you accept our offer as a good stock pick with strong analysis and good detail behind it? Or did we just miss the mark and we've got to have our head go to the gallows? I'm not sure. Emily, who do you want to go first?
I want to hear Mark's analysis on UPS.
All
So
right,
I will
let's
have
give it
Mark
the
go
UPS.
first.
Like I've been talking the last couple of days and all that, when I do an investment, I want a good thesis. Technical analysis is great for short-term trading, and it can contribute in your decision making and how you manage a long-term position. For example, when do you enter if you're interested? When do you sell calls? When do you buy protective puts? When do you add shares? So technical analysis helps us all. But when I'm making a decision on an investment, I need a good thesis, right? It's why we've been so bullish on copper at tackle trading for the last year. Technicals have been great. They've been very supportive, but it is this thesis of money being put into the economy, money, money, money. Copper does very well in inflation and anticipating an inflationary environment, anticipating all kinds of stimulus. There was a thesis behind it. And so when I get a good thesis, I get very, very interested. And then when I get facts supporting that thesis, well, I feel very good and confident. And that's what I think is going on with UPS. Listen, I'm not going to exactly break any news here when I say that things have been trending towards e-commerce for a long time now, right? I think that the pandemic accelerated everything. I think it changed human behavior in some ways, maybe some ways good, some ways bad, but I definitely think it accelerated certain trends. And one of those trends was the dominant trend that's been going on for 15, 20 years on e-commerce. Everybody knows that e-commerce does more and more sales every year. I think the pandemic reinforced and created new habits in consumers. Now, there will always be retail stores to some degree, but I think you have a class of individuals who maybe were not as adverse or not comfortable with e-commerce as much. I think you had some people that did some e-commerce, and so I think everything got accelerated during the pandemic in the habits that were formed. And once habits are formed, and we know this from retail data and consumer data, once habits are formed, it's really hard to break out of habits. And once habits are formed, people tend to go to the same restaurant, right? People tend to go to the same stores. People tend to do the same things over and over. And when people get clicky in the button on the e-commerce, that starts forming habits. And when that goes on for a whole year, on what was already a dominant, powerful, inevitable trend, right? I think things got accelerated. And as such, UPS and the same analysis on this thesis would apply to FedEx. It's one of the reasons I've been bullish on these companies for the last year. Now, what I love, all right, so that's the overarching thesis, right? An accelerating trend in e-commerce. Who can benefit that? Obviously, retail stores that have great e-commerce platforms, Amazon naturally, but you also got the shipping companies who benefit from this general environment. All right, so that's the big thesis. Now, I love me a couple things that are going on UPS. First of all, I love a multi-month consolidation pattern. You have these big run-ups, right? So UPS and FedEx were running big in June, running big in July, running big into August. That's great. I hate chasing that. I hate chasing that because it can get really wonky. Because what oftentimes happens is exactly what happened with UPS. Big run up, take a long time off, trade sideways, formed a support level almost immediately. So you had a big week down in October, and then you just formed a support level there because there was real interest in UPS. Now it had extended itself, so the momentum had died in the short term, but formed a support level, tested it again at the start of the year, formed a support level almost immediately, and traded sideways for a long time, which you are now breaking out. And then when I get numbers, so I get a thesis, I get an idea, I got a technical formation, I have everything I want. And then today I get the numbers, I get the data showing that things are pretty darn good. And a true beat, not just this made up, like so many things in Wall Street, it's just a big manipulation game. This is a genuine beat. Love the thesis moving forward. I love the technical situation. The only thing now is the trigger, and you don't want to like buy right away. You want to have, how do you play a gap? Different people are going to play it in different ways. If you get a pullback to the old resistance level, that would be ideal, a Cody special. If you get a 3-4 day short-term consolidation form with a breakout of that, it's just finding your trigger now. But that's my case for UPS. I submit it to the Queen for her judgment.
There's several things I could add in here from how to play that gap, Emily, but let's hear your judgment first here on UPS Mark's analysis and what he's looking for. By the way, the implied volatility from the podcast conversation yesterday got rocked here to the downside. Obviously, a high side gap is going to see volatility get just crushed. It's the lowest it's been since last year now. So options are relatively cheaper than they've been in quite some time. What are your thoughts here, Emily, on UPS?
I first of all, I love the way Mark goes through his planning process, right? Just talking about, how he looks at investments. And I mean, like hearing you talk today versus hearing you talking when you're talking about SPACs and all this other stuff that you do, this crap that you do. I'm like, you're two different people. But I love Investment Mark, because Investment Mark, like makes absolute
Hey, I get distracted by shiny objects every once in a while, right? Driving down the road and you're like, what's that? Ooh, a taco truck. I need to go get me a taco.
McRib.
I see McRib back. You can forget that.
Forget about it. I need to sell naked puts on AMC so I can go buy McRibs. Like that Mark, I don't understand. But this Investment Mark, I love how you go through about, the whole, there's a thesis behind it, and then you find the facts that are supporting that thesis, and then you talk about the news and the formed habits and how you just piece everything together for you to make an informed decision. And I wish a lot of us as investors would take that time to go through and think about that investment, the way you just kind of talked about it, because a lot of us just kind of like, I like Apple because of whatever. And you really don't go through that whole, process of where you're checking every box. And I wish, like, if you guys are not listening, go back and watch this and just like write down, like, the things to look for when you're going through these investments, have a thesis and look at the facts and look at the numbers and the pattern of consumers and the behavior and whatever sector it's in. So I really love that whole analysis about that. And for UPS being where it is today, it gapped up, but there's definitely now, especially when you look at the weekly, if this is an investment, obviously, doing covered calls or maybe figuring out a way to do, poor boys covered call with it or whatever the case might be. But this is definitely something that, has broken out of a long-term range. So I definitely love that. And like you said, maybe we get a pullback and find a different entry point, but I absolutely love this. This is probably the one of your better ones that you've brought on the Queen's Court, Mark. So keep it up.
Not only am I, so do I get to live this week?
Oh, you're definitely living.
Not only do I get to live, I got lavish praise from the Queen. I feel very good. I'm going to go back and tell my farmstead wife and my children that I'm raising in your precious kingdom that I was, the Queen had. Nice
you have one favor today with the Queen, yeah, because I really.
Oh, one favor. That's the phrase, right? I've one favor with the Queen.
You've one favor with the Queen
a week.
For at least a week.
For at least a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So this makes me very nervous because obviously the Queen said she's in the mood for blood today, and there's only 2 participants that have appointments in the court. But I'm gonna start off my analysis with something very, very simple. Give me XME. Now, earlier in the show, we talked about XHB and the idea of the home builder ETF. And I'm a big fan of ETFs in general, exchange traded funds that track, a basket of certain things, or they track the underlying commodity that they're watching or whatever it might be. Very popular ETF in our community is the Gold Miner ETF, GDX, Emily, and you can take a peek at GDX specifically. And if you're focused on gold, you're focused on gold miners, this is going to be the ETF you want to watch for, obviously. And I believe, Emily, you've been watching this product for a long time, trading it in different ways and all those kind of things. I'm going to add to that and give you a different type of metals and mining analysis with XME, because XME is not just gold miners. In fact, it's mostly not gold miners. The top 10 composition in XME, I want you to think through this, okay? And I'm going to read them off to you. You can look at a couple of them. Alcoa, AA, is in the top 10. It's not number one, but it's in the top 10, okay? Now, aluminum. We're talking about aluminum stock, aluminum improvements. Nucor, huge steel company, okay? So aluminum, N-U-E, not E-U there, my queen. Nucor has been a juggernaut, and we all know what steel has been doing over the last little bit. Cleveland Cliffs, CLF, another steel company that's on our Tackle 25, a dirty, sexy money candidate list. Freeport McMoran, Copper and Gold, FCX. And hi, Mama. How are you? I'm working on my show right now. Are you going to be here for a minute? Okay. I'll come and drink it. You can hang out.
I'm going to go. I
All right.
just dropped off some tickets.
Sounds good. Mama Justice is here, Emily. That might actually
Hi,
give me some
Mom.
brownie points. You want to say hi to everybody? Just say hi.
Hi, hey, how's all you financial geniuses out there?
We are doing wonderful. It's good to hear your voice.
We are talking metals and mining companies right
We,
now.
we
and
were just
specifically-
talking how you should sell all your Bitcoin.
No, Mom, don't sell your Bitcoin.
Love you, Mom. I'll talk to you after my show. I'll give you a call, okay? Anyway, so we're talking about, these companies that are a composition in XME, and many names that you probably recognize or like. But even outside of those, like look at CDE, Coeur d'Alene Mines, silver mining company. So you get a little bit of those type of exposures as well. We looked at all of the metals industry earlier in the show, and we are at the very first day of a 2-day policy meeting to remind everybody in this room that yes, we're going to have soft monetary policy that's going to create inflation. Metals, mining benefit from those environments. And if you go back on XME, the chart even looks clean. The chart has a good approach to it, and the option chains are liquid. You had a higher pivot low, equal pivot low into the consolidation, Emily, and we are now threatening a breakout. XME, the metals and mining ETF. And listen, what queen doesn't need to have raw physical stuff to build her kingdom? This is my submission to you for the Queen's Court here today.
How can I kill you off and Mama was just there? Like, that's so wrong. Listen, it didn't matter what you were going to bring today. I was going to kill you off because of what you did last week, but you were on my radar. You were going to die today, whether you liked it or not. But Mama J just walked in and she said hi and she brought you food. Maybe that's your last meal before you actually get killed off. So, if I'm comparing between what Mark has and what you brought to the table, absolutely, I love Mark's pick. But I also see your point and your thesis behind XME and the metals. So I love that as well for somebody who does not have exposure in the metals. But for head-to-head battles today, Mark won, so you will have to have your head chopped off.
She just wanted blood. She just wanted a sacrifice.
But I absolutely love it. I mean, I love again your storyline behind it and your thesis and the facts that you're bringing in about the metals and all that good stuff. Absolutely love the trend. I mean, look at this weekly chart. It's beautiful. But yeah, Mark went first.
Mm-hmm. They were calling for leniency, guys. I'm sorry, you have to respect the Queen's ability to call for a head.
And I really don't want to kill you when Mama J is there too, but I have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Just leave those leftovers on the porch. I'll pick them up after you're dead.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that is another edition of the Queen's Court, and I've now had my head chopped off twice. I'm going to
more
have
times
two
than anybody else. Yep.
Yes.
More times than anybody else.
I got to rethink my approach here. Yeah. That's all right, my queen. I have a lot of fun with that segment. Hopefully some people got some good ideas around some different products there. And, I do love XME, by the way. It should be on people's.
I do. It really is pretty. I mean, look at that breakout about to happen.
Oh, it's a fine pick.
You
you committed sins last week.
Yeah.
And last one here, guys, as we kind of wrap up the show, there was rumors, not confirmed. I don't have evidence. I don't have the information, but there are rumors that Amazon is talking stock split here, Mark. We don't know that yet, but that would be really exciting news.
It would be cool.
Mhm.
I mean, it would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be very nice if that happened.
Come on, Amazon, split the stock. Every investor in the world would love it. Come on. We all want it to happen. So I heard that rumor. Fox
Make
Business.
it involve the Queen's Court.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tim the Hydra. I kind of like this nickname, Jamo. I do. I do. Although I'm completely right now, my whole brain is around castles, medieval castles in the UK, because I've been watching documentaries on the great castles in Britain over the last couple of days, Emily. And so I want some kind of theme around that. I was hoping to survive the Queen's Court, but no, I'm just another story in the logs. There we go. Let's start wrapping up here, guys. Marky, final thoughts.
Listen, I mean, the technicals are beautiful. We got a big week ahead. I mean, have a plan, right? This is what I talked on the Sunday prep class. Like, what is your plan if things come down to support? What is your plan if the broad markets break resistance? What is your plan if the broad markets break support, heaven forbid? But what is your plan? I mean, you were given a gift heading into this week based on technicals. Obviously, it's a good cash flow environment, has been, pretty much for the last year. Nice little couple weeks of cash flow going on lately, but there's some directional opportunity if we break resistance. Just have a plan. Just have a plan.
Emily, final thoughts from you.
Same sentiments. I mean, we've got earnings, we've got a lot of, news-based events happening, Fed speaking this week. Just be prepared. If you've got to sit in the sidelines, sit in the sidelines. But like Mark said, know what to do when, know what to do if, certain things happen. But it's an interesting time to be in the market, and it's just kind of watching, these new highs just keep breaking out. It's fascinating, but I like the slow and steadiness of it, and just being able to, it gives you a chance to really sit down and plan ahead and really, be able to come up with some good ideas on what to do. And
I like that. Yeah, right.
Slow.
It is slow and steady. It's like you don't feel you don't feel pressured
pressure
this week at all. Like to start the week.
Yeah,
I like that.
No, you don't. You're going to have a little bit of pressure in the markets here in the morning, though. Take a peek at a few names here, Emily, as I think through my final thoughts. Earnings are not going to lighten up, guys. They are going to heat up as we move through the rest of the week. Microsoft today after the bell. Google today after the bell.
That'll be fun.
Microsoft heading into its high base after a pretty good stretch, having their earnings. Visa after the bell. Starbucks after the bell.
Wow.
Darling of the markets, AMD after the bell today. Pinterest after the bell, one of my favorite little social media companies. And wait, there's more tomorrow before the bell. Shopify, Boeing.
Ooh, Shopify.
One of your favorites, earnings tomorrow. Boeing, Spotify. I mean, guys,
Shopify and Spotify on the same day. That's going to be fun.
We have a busy 24-hour cycle of earnings in front of us. Just come back and join us to break it all down. Mark, it's a busy week for earnings, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Got to get through the rest of the week, right?
Yep. And I'm just glad I queenified you.
Oh, now he's talking trash.
I will say, for those of you who have not traded volatility yet, this is, these stocks that we just went through, these are great ones to
massive
practice.
Yeah. That's a massive 24 hours.
Yeah, practice volatility trades with these stocks. These are big movers. Sometimes they can be, sometimes it can be a Tesla and be a nothing burger. But if you've never traded volatility, this is your time to kind of paper trade and practice these concepts and kind of see how volatility works when you're trading through earnings.
Marky, any pro products or things we got going on
Coach's
tonight?
show tonight, 8:30 Eastern. We got Greg Holmes and Gino Poor teaching tonight. So Greg and Gino tonight on the Coach's show. Join us, pro members, 8:30 Eastern.
Fantastic. All right, guys, that's it for Tuesday's show. If you've not done it yet, give us that thumbs up to help us get the analytics up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and click the bell. And if you want to attend that Coach's show and you're not yet a pro member, there's a 15-day trial link in the description of every one of our YouTube videos. And I also dropped one in the chat. Hashtag Team Tackle. You guys out there are the best. I appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow having a lot of fun as we always do. We'll see you guys then.